Welcome to TAMA Talks, brought to you by the Torrance Art Museum Advocates. I'm Janine Madden, current TAMA president, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Today, we will be discussing work which is currently on view in the main gallery at the Torrance Art Museum in a show called Studio System, an experimental residency project. The Studio System project is a unique attempt to bridge the gap between artistic practice and the public. First held in 2015, Studio System seeks to bring the dynamism of the artist studio into the museum space, encouraging audiences to not only see works as they are in progress, but to interact with the artists to discuss inspirations, sources, thoughts, feelings, content, and context, as well as chart the progression of the works over the month-long period that the project encompasses. The exhibition is on view through June 29th and culminates in a closing reception from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. This reception is open to the public and we invite you to attend. The museum is located at 3320 Civic Center Drive in Torrance, California, and is open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is free and donations are gratefully accepted. This discussion is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel with all of our previous TAMA Talks. You can access it from our website, www.tamadvocates.com. Joining us today is Studio System resident artist, Clarisse Abelarde. Clarisse received a BFA in drawing and painting at CSU Long Beach and 4 associate degrees in general arts, liberal arts, studio art, and art history from Los Angeles City College. She recently completed a Quinn-Emanuel Artist in Residence and founded Nous-Ance Projects, an online platform for artist interviews, blogs, and annual exhibitions in Los Angeles. Her work has been featured in publications including Hyperallergic, Primary Magazine, and the City of LA Department of Cultural Affairs Calendar and Cultural Guide. Her paintings have been shown in galleries including Superchief, Resident Art, Stay, and many more. Clarisse lives and works in the heart of downtown Los Angeles amid the hustle and bustle of city life, which serves as her inspiration daily. So welcome, Clarisse. We're really happy to have you kick off the series of TAMA Talks with the artists participating in Studio System. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction.
You are most welcome. So I'm going to navigate to the first image, which I think Tam put up on their Instagram feed. And I'm not sure how far into the process this was taken. Everybody started did you all start on the 1st of June?
Right, yeah. I started a little bit late because on the 1st of June, I had a solo show at launch. And then I also started another residency at the same time. And so that day was kind of crazy for me. And so I started like the next day that was available. So like the Tuesday of. And this was taken, I believe, just a few days in, actually. So within the first week of the residency. And I had recently just built that new stretcher bar in the corner.
Yeah, this one here.
Right, yeah. And I ended up stretching it with silk screen instead of canvas. And so the material is kind of like see-through and the paint kind of just seeps through instead of sitting on top of the canvas.
Oh.
Right. And it's got a painting on it already. It's, it's much more developed now. And the piece in the middle is it's a painting that's like, it's pretty large. It doesn't look that big on screen because I guess like I'm like much closer to the frame.
Yes. Yes.
But it's so much bit larger than me. I'd say it's about like 6 feet and also 6 feet wide almost.
Okay.
And the face is much more done now. There's a lot more happening on the skirt that she's wearing, there's like kind of like a patterned skirt. And this image I grabbed from Pinterest from an online influencer. And so my work kind of talks about like the ideals that we find from online influences, whether it's from social media or from magazines online or Pinterest and things like that. And I kind of compare those images with images I take of myself and kind of like the idea of like, where do I tie into this world?
Sure, sure. And you know, I just realized this is the first set of interviews that we're going to be doing about studio systems. So, you know, could you give us just a little bit of background on how the process worked? Did you apply to be an artist for this particular exhibition, or were you asked, or how did that start? And just kind of give folks a rundown of how the process works. I mean, you basically are going into the space with nothing. Normally, people bring in their completed work, hang it. We have an opening reception and people look at it for a month or two. But this project is very, very different than the normal process of hanging work in the museum.
Right. It's so completely different than what I'm used to in this kind of setting, just because like we were all, well, first of all, I applied to be in this position. I believe there's like a few hundreds that applied, and I believe there's only 12 of us that got in. Um, and so we're in the main museum space in the main gallery. It's divvied up into 12 between all of us. And I think there's one outside in the courtyard. So there's
Yes,
kind of like outdoor installation.
that might
Um,
be Ashton's out there in the courtyard. Yeah.
right. And so we were all asked to bring in and to start new work and to kind of show everybody how everything kind of starts and progresses up to the finish line. And so it's just like a very interesting way to like interact with museum visitors. When a piece isn't finished, it feels a little vulnerable. It feels like, oh no, don't look at it yet, like it's not finished. But I think it's really important that they get to see that, because it's a beautiful thing that we get to experience on our own. And even like being around each other's work is really inspiring, to be able to like walk around and like talk to each other and kind of grab techniques and textures and colors from each other. I think that's a really beautiful experience. So it's been really amazing, actually.
That's so cool. I was going to say, so even though you knew going in that you were going to have to be completing the work as people kind of came in, you still get that little feeling of wait till it's all done. So,
Totally. And I think when I speak to museum visitors, I tend to kind of urge them to see it in the end, just so they can compare what they see now versus what they could see in the end, because a lot can happen in just a few weeks and you can really end up with a finished piece in the end. So I'm really excited for that.
well, let me see. So this is just a close up of that. Let me just go back. So you can even see between this image and this one that the sleeves are a little more developed, and you know, the whole idea here is that it is in progress, and you get to watch you know, you could come in every day. Are you intentionally slowing down the process of completing it? Like, how long would it normally take you? Would it take you 30 days to finish a piece like this?
No, yeah, typically this a piece this large, yeah, it would typically, because I'm a fast painter, it would just take me a few days actually. And but because of my commute and I'm not there every single day, the process has been slower. And I
Okay.
think it's really nice actually for the visitors to be able to see it, for much longer in this stage. Because otherwise it could just like be finished in a few days and they wouldn't get to be able to see the juicy
Ye-
work. and stuff.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's that act of mark making that you're doing in their presence that is really what makes this show so different than anything, like you said, that we normally do, and even as an artist that you do. So okay, so this is the piece that's up in the gallery, in the main gallery. And are you saying that is this going to be the only piece, or do you have additional pieces that you'll be working on through the 30th or 29th?
I have a few other pieces that I'm working on. In the other photograph, there's like two canvases, one that's hung, like a small one that's hung on the right side, and a larger canvas on the left side. But there's also two little wood panels on my desk. So there's a few other things that I'm working on as well.
Okay, great. So was there a limit to what you could display in the space that you were given?
I'm not quite sure, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit more minimal. I've seen some of my cohorts bring in a lot of work and have been working like a lot. And so I'm not sure if they're going to be editing it out or if they're going to be showing all of it. Um, but either way, I know it's going to be a really good show. So I hope everybody comes.
Yeah, I think, and it's interesting because unlike the normal, not normal, unlike the typical show that we have, everybody comes on the opening night and then they know that they have all month to see it. And in this case, they come, when they come to the closing reception, that's it. Like that's the only opportunity that they'll have to see the work finished. It comes down the following day. And
Right.
so, or, within that week or so. And so there's an urgency, I think, to coming in to seeing the work. That idea that you come in and maybe see a piece that you're drawn to, and you watch it develop until it's completed, and then you see it in its final form for just a really short period of time at the closing reception. So
Right. And I've met a few people who have told me like who would come like almost every week and would tell me when they're coming in so that I could be there when they come in. And like it's just a beautiful thing to really connect with the audience in such a deep way, but also like yeah, because they never get to witness these things when
absolutely,
the
right.
museum is just a finished.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the beauty of the show. And I love that idea that people are interacting with you so intimately, saying, this is what I'm coming back on Wednesday. Are you going to be here on Wednesday? And they kind of follow your journey. And that relationship that you build with them, I think, is important too to you as an artist. It kind of validates. I'm not sure if it does validate, but at the end of the day, it's the age old question: am I making the art for myself, or am I making it for people to look at? So,
Right. And I think it's both, I think. Like I feel like it has to start from yourself because you just you need to have the drive to be able to make the work consistently and be really diligent about it. But at the same time, if no one ever gets to see the work, that's a bit sad to me. Like just the idea.
exactly. Yeah. Because like I said, in this particular instance, even if you came the first week and you saw it in its roughest form, then when you come at the very, very end, the show is designed specifically for you to be able to come as often as you can to see that progression. So
Right. It's a really beautiful thing, and I'm so grateful to be part of this.
fantastic. That's just an awesome, awesome opportunity. So I'm so glad you were selected. So here's the piece now. And you're saying that even now, it's more developed than this.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Right. Absolutely. And some of the other paintings that were in progress, like that was just like kind of built stretcher bars, there's already paintings on it as well.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, good. And so you actually provided some of the other work that you have done, and you're gonna kind of enlighten us about some of your other work. This is the piece, I think, that was on the Torrance Art Museum website when they were showcasing the different artists who are going to be participating in Studio System.
Right. So this piece was made in 2023, and my work typically talks about the digital age and living in both worlds, in the digital world and in real life, and what that kind of looks like as an experience to me. And this one is built up with oil paint, and kind of like it looks like it has like a collage essence to it, but it's all just oil paint. Um, and I use various images of myself, just taking selfies and kind of like disrupting the space in a lot of ways. I just wanted to kind of show a shifting and diversion of spaces, because I feel like that's kind of what it's like being online often. It kind of like interrupts your daily life and kind of just like is a shroud of digital mess
Yeah,
that's like so different from real life. And that,
it is an accurate description. You are right. It is a rabbit hole of distraction, and yes, I agree. I agree. But in this case, the impetus for your work. So hey,
right.
that's
I'm so deeply inspired by that. I feel like, because I didn't grow up with um like the digital media, like how Gen Z is now. Like I feel like there was a time in my childhood where I didn't have that. And so I really feel the disconnect between those two, and how that could really affect the psyche. It could be really damaging, and kind of like, I don't know, it's just such a stark difference. Like when you're just enjoying your life versus like when you're constantly on your phone. Like that's just, yeah.
yeah, and also that idea that the constant the constancy of the constant, like that idea that your phone is always nearby, and that we're panicking when we don't have it nearby, because we feel as though we need to be either dialed in to what's happening around us, or the contrary to that, the idea that we need to be reached. Like for someone to be at, what if someone calls? And I'm like, yeah, well, remember back in the day when you had to be home and pick up the phone as it was ringing. So yeah, you're right. It does kind of show the
Mm.
contrast between the two.
Yeah, and we were all just fine back then when we didn't have it. But
Yeah.
for some reason right now we just literally can't exist anymore without it. And it's just, I don't know what it is, if it's like an addiction or if it's an actual like need or a necessity to have it. Like in case of an emergency, but at the same time it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
dealt with emergencies in many ways, shapes, and forms prior. So prior to the urgency
right.
of having a device right there next to you, that all you can say into it is, "I'm stuck on 405 and I cannot get to you." So
Right. But I
um,
mean, going even deeper than just like, phones and social media being a distraction, I feel like it also kind of messes with the idea of your identity, and it kind of splinters your identity in ways where, you end up having different masks, right? So like who you are on social media is different from who you are with your family versus who you are with your friends. And it kind of like completely changes who you are in a lot of ways. It's a little scary.
and this piece really speaks to that in its idea of a collage. There is that fragmented aspect to it that basically speaks to exactly what you were just saying.
Right.
All right, I love this one.
Thank you. This piece is currently on view at Launch LA. Um, and again, it talks about like the ideal human, like the ideal like woman on social media, but like being more specific, like the Asian woman. Um, and this image I found on Pinterest again, and it's like something that's really prominent in my work too is like repetition and just constant like repeating an image, because I feel like that's what social media does. It kind of just like, it's just the same images you see over and over again. And but in this one, it's more just like going in on like the reflection of the phone. Like there's like a mirror, because
Mhm.
it's kind of like a mirror selfie. And then the mirror selfie is reflecting into the phone, and like each iteration is just the same image over and over again, all the way to the end.
Yeah. And even
Um,
this little, when we see the little preview of it here,
right. Yeah.
preview of it here, and you have the preview of it here, and then there's going to be another preview of it there. So
Yeah. And like inside of that preview actually has another smaller phone that has the image again. And so I think it's like repeated like 9 times or something just within this painting. And so I think that's like a really fun like Easter egg thing.
yes, yes.
Like, oh, guess how many there are.
And,
But
and the
it's
idea that
also,
it's not a photographic image, that you have painted each one, is what makes this so incredible, right? Is that it's not a photograph, it's you and your ability to replicate that image in a smaller and smaller and smaller way.
yeah, thank you. It was so much fun, and I'm not used to like painting with a tiny brush with like one hair on it. But, but it was really fun. It was like really satisfying to be able to see this to the end. And yeah, it was just like about the ideal woman and how much we like revere that ideal. And it was actually like part of a diptych, but I didn't have the image of the other one.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Do we have that? Do you know?
no, we
Oh,
don't.
okay.
But
Okay.
the other image is just me like in bad shape. So it's kind of the complete opposite of what this is showing, you
Sure.
know?
Sure. Which I
Yeah.
think, it's really funny that you said that, because I think that that's often what happens is when we walk by a mirror, or we do the old, check your phone and facing you mode. And I don't know. And a lot of times I look at it and just think, yeah, there's no way that I look like anything that's ever going to be on Pinterest.
It's really jarring, actually. You're like, whoa, that can't be me.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Like, it's one of the reasons why when I record these, I'm never going to really ever be on screen, because I know it's interesting, because when I go back and listen, it's really just a voiceover. Um,
Right.
but at the same time, many of the artists that join me say the same thing, like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally fine not being on camera." So, okay, great. Let me know if you want to be on before the end, and I'll be happy to pop you on before we finish.
Okay.
Yeah, for
This
some reason, when I saw this, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alice Neal, but she's the first artist that I thought of when I saw this piece. Maybe it was the feet, but yeah, it was very evocative of her work.
Thank you. I love Alice Neal.
Yeah.
She's such a great like
Mhm,
figurative artist.
mhm.
Just like very
Absolutely.
physical and very muscular in her moves.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and it might be also the colors that I used might be
Yes.
like just an
Mhm.
impact.
Exactly. It's that red, pink, that sort of, I don't know, I call it Philip Guston red of that you're using in the feet. That's just it's a wonderful color. Do you mix your own color?
I do, and I think when I painted this, I was actually making my own paints, and so it starts from pigments and then like grind it up with like mediums and things like that. Um, it just makes it easier so that I don't have to mix skin color anymore. I just have like this like set of like um paints that I personalize on my own, and that's what I was doing back in the day. But this was done in 2022, and it kind of talks about similar things about like physical connectivity versus superficial connectivity. So if you look closely, there's like icons, like little buttons on the top right or like middle right, where that's like the Instagram interface. And like all the circles and buttons too are like about like the digital stuff too.
Okay.
But yeah, it just connects like the idea of like being connected physically with other people. And it's like they're playing a game called Mahjong. And that's like a popular game in the Philippines, but I think it's popular with amongst other cultures as well. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it also talks about the diaspora, I guess, and like the way I was brought up and where I came from. So I feel like this is a little bit more robust in meaning than just like, oh, digital. versus real world, you know.
Sure. And I see the watch, and yeah, so you really kind of pull it in so many different ways.
Thank you.
Great piece. This color is fantastic right here. That's what I like, that purple,
Thank you.
blue purple. Okay. How large is this piece? It's so vibrant and just has so many parts to it.
Thank you. It's like 6 feet by 4 feet.
Okay, okay.
So it's pretty large, and I guess you can kind of see the evolution of my work from like coming from somewhere that's like really more fragmented and um kind of that there's just a lot going on. It's more maximalist in a lot of ways versus what it is now, which it kind of like moved towards like a more minimalist, more statutory um feeling.
Mhm.
I guess like that's like something I've been experimenting recently, and that's something that they kind of encourage in the studio system too, is to start experimenting, you know? And so I feel like, yeah, I feel like I just wanted to try something new and kind of like explore other ideas as well.
Yeah, because
Uh,
that's right in the title, right? The whole idea of it being an experimental residency. But I have always interpreted that as the idea of it being experimental, like the idea of you all coming together, different artists who you really don't know. I guess you must submit something when he's making the selection,
right.
because oftentimes the shows in the gallery, in the main space, in the main gallery are woven together with some magical max. I'm not really sure what he uses, but there's something that provides a cohesiveness to many of the shows. But this
Yeah.
one is so different because I'm not really, you're not really sure um, what you're going to create when you come in, whether or not it's going to be reflective of the piece that you submitted to be selected.
Right. And surprisingly, the work has been really cohesive, even though we came in without knowing each other, without knowing like, yeah, for some reason, like all of our colors kind of match. Like the subject matter is kind of there's like some kind of like line throughout the entire piece and so or the show. So it's been really interesting to like see how we're all influenced in some ways, and it's weird. It's really it's weird how like how that happens, but
Yeah,
it's really
I think it is, and again, I think a lot of it is due to the curatorial selection process. Based on what you submit, even on the website. Even on the website for the Torrance Art Museum, on the studio system page, where there's an example of your work from the images that you submitted, is my guess. But there's a cohesiveness there as well, and I'm not sure if it's just in the mark making, but it's this piece is fantastic. So
thank you. It's yeah, it's just all about the same kind of idea where it's like the digital, like where's the line, right? Like it's just a really blurred line of like where's the digital and where's the real.
mhm.
And I've always been so fascinated by the abstract expressionist movement. And this was when I really started using unconventional materials to apply paint. So with this piece, I used like corrugated metals, um, some pottery tools, just like a bunch of random items to apply the paint instead of a brush or instead of like a palette knife. And so it lended to these like really beautiful mark making things that just wouldn't exist if I was using just normal mark making tools. And I think that's what makes this piece so special. And it's just been like really, yeah, I'm really like protective of this one. It's
Yeah.
so good. I like it.
Yeah, it's there. I've had artists talk previously about the idea that some of their work is like a child, like they really don't want to see it leave the studio, because they have either, spent a lot of time on it. And again, it kind of goes back to our question is why am I making art? And I think, like you said, it's both. I'm sort of soothing a part of my soul when I create something. but I'm also making it for others to enjoy and look at, and you know, allow it to speak to them. And a piece like this definitely deserves time, as do all of the pieces that we've looked at today. But this piece in particular really deserves time in front of it to see all of the different textures and colors and shapes, and every art, every part of art is represented in this piece. So
Thank you. There's also like little vignettes and little worlds that you could just like keep going into and keep finding new things with this one. So
yeah,
yeah.
this is wonderful, wonderful. I think, let me see, this might be the last one. It is. So before we end, is there anything that you'd like to, do you want to be on screen? Are you good?
No,
Not
I think I'm not on screen.
okay. All right. Well, I do want to thank you so very, very much for kicking off this series. Like I said, many of the artists who are participating in Studio System have agreed to come on and do a TAMA talk. So really excited about the opportunity. Before we started to record, I was saying that we do the TAMA talks for people who may not have an opportunity to get out to the museum to see the work, or they're planning a visit, and sometimes by watching one of these before they go, they get a little bit of an insight before they come, so that they can be kind of in the right frame of mind when they're looking at your work. So
Yeah, I love that. And I'm excited to get to know everybody. I hope you guys come to the Studio System residency because it's just been such a wonderful experience and you get to meet all these great artists too. So can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much for having me.
absolutely, Clarisse. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Appreciate it.